What's up, guys? I'm really excited to show you this video. I really love the Terminator franchise, and I really want to go to school for special effects or prop design someday. So I spend a lot of my spare time designing Terminator endos, Predator helmets, Star Wars, anything like that. And this one I love because I really want to do a battle damage T-800, the CSM T-101, with the skin still fused to the Endoskull. So pretty much I just gotta start from scratch. I have to carve my own ear out of clay. I'm going to do one side because I want to kind of reflect from the photo I used. I want the skin to be scraped, damaged, and kind of ripped, so it doesn't look very new or fresh. It's going to be more of a decayed feel and look to it. And pretty much when all that's done, I'm going to use Rebound 40 to create a silicone mold from it, because that's the best molding compound and the cheapest for the price that I've ever found so far. So I use that for pretty much anything. And then after I've molded it, I'll use plaster for a mother mold to house the silicone rubber mold. And that's pretty much all I gotta do for the ear. Now to actually cast the ear, I'm going to use layers and layers of latex. Just basically latex you can find at Hobby Lobby or Michael's. It's going to be about 10 layers, about 30-40 minutes dry time in between layers, so it'll give you a nice skin feel, a nice skin look to it, and it's really flexible and pliable. I'm going to use that to wrap around the contour surface of the T-800. And that's pretty much it. It doesn't look too bad. I went ahead and just did layers by itself, so I have a little bit to work with I can use for the other parts and sides of the T-800. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this perfectly clean casted T-800 and just completely mess it up. I'll glue all this latex pieces around it, and then eventually I'll singe it and burn it and melt it to the surface so it looks a little bit more real and paint it. I just use simple hot glue gun to apply it to the surface, and that'll keep it sticking really well. Now these are the extra pieces that I've already cut out and had put aside. I don't want to cover the entire skull, I just want to cover about 30-40% of the surface. I like to reveal as much of the Terminator as possible, it just looks a lot more neater that way. And once all that's all dried and fused together, I will go ahead and take just plain latex, and I will use a paintbrush and just apply it around the thick edges, and that will eventually smooth those out after about 5 or 6 layers dried. And I'll basically just keep coating more and more of what I want to be covered in skin, and then I can eventually peel some of that back and have it look like it's been ripped away. But this stuff is usually set out in the sun. It'll probably dry in about 20 minutes. Just keep adding layers, and eventually it'll just smooth itself all the way out. I like to put the latex on really thick. It'll take a little bit longer to dry, but it actually adheres to the surface a little bit better than thin layers. I like to just let this sit and dry overnight, just so I know all the layers are dry fully before I'll start painting and putting out the final paint to it. Now that I got that coated pretty good, I like to just let it sit overnight so it dries. And then once it's fully dried and all the surfaces are pretty flat out, and it looks like one layer of skin instead of just a bunch of pieces glued to it, I'll let it sit and dry, and then I'll go ahead and start painting it. Now that that's dry, I'm going to start painting it. I don't want it to look like living tissue. I don't want it to look really fresh. I want it to be more decayed and aged, like he's been just kind of roaming the hot deserts of LA and the hot terrain. It's just the flesh is just starting to corrode off and age. So I'm going to give it more of a dull look to it. And then once I age it and give it a wash and burn the edges down, it'll look really good. And as I say, burn the edges off, I mean really burn the edges off. It is the best way that I've come up with to actually make it look like it's really been just burned or singed off from the skull itself. And you get a real natural burn mark from that too. And I'll do this to every edge so it doesn't look like a solid edge. I want it to look really burned and just destroyed and melted away. And the way the latex actually bubbles up too really kind of replicates the look of burnt flesh. So that turns out really good. Yeah, I really wanted to make this guy look like he's been through complete war and back, and he's still kicking. So there's going to be pretty much not much left of facial features or the skin. It's going to be pretty much down to bare minimum of what would be left over. And the cool thing about latex, you can actually then peel it back and it'll go right back to laying against the contour of the Endoskull. And the one thing I like to do is I like to throw just a little bit of loose soil on it, especially this guy because his backstory is LA, desert, hot, future war. So some sand, he might be through some sandstorms, so he's going to be dirty too. And the dirt helps to keep the burnt latex from sticking because it turns really sticky when you burn it, so it covers that up. And then once the dirt's all rubbed off as much as possible, I'll just take pretty much just the fake blood you can get out of a Halloween store. It works really well. It's really cheap, and you can just cake it on here, and it'll look really good. And when that dries out, it'll actually look like dead, dry blood that's been just dried out of the desert heat. And I like to pull back the latex and paint inside the Terminator where it might still be a little bit more fresh. I like to give it 2 or 3 coats because when it dries, it'll wear off and fade off. But if you put 2 or 3 coats on it, it'll stick for a while. Now this is something I create. I create these for all my T-800s because I'll have like a whole wall of them eventually. I just wanted something to look like a resistance fighter from the future war has them kind of mounted in his wherever he's staying at. Either this wall of Terminator endos, like it's a resistance trophy is what I'm going for. And I just wanted like some kind of industrial party picked up and stuck a pipe through it. He just throws the Terminator Endoskulls on it, and that's all it is. So I'll just take the casting of the piece that I carved out of clay earlier and molded in some PVC piping, chrome it, paint it, wash it, rust it up, and put the T-800 skull on it, and it'll look really neat. It's really simple to do, really inexpensive. So, pretty much it for that, and there you go.